Hello everybody, welcome to AZ Security, the latest technology which we will present from the Azure environment. My name is Dylan Paardenkoper. I am a Microsoft MVP working as a cloud architect at IT Impressive, and today we are going to talk about how to secure your APIs with fine-grained API access control. Today I have a special guest. This is Sven van den Burg. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Dylan.
You're welcome.
I'm glad to be here. Finally, we have also focus on API security, API security. Finally. My name is Sven. Familiar with API management, I think almost 10 years. And the thing is, my daughter was born in 2014, and that was the launch date of API management from Azure.
Really? Wow.
So that's those stats we'll never forget. Because
that's a special day, right? Wow.
Definitely, yeah.
Cool.
The month is not exactly the same, but okay, the year will match. So
at least you don't forget it, right?
Yeah, definitely. So from now, Azure API management is 11 years.
Wow, 11 years already.
Yeah.
Nice. Hey, and do you also work since it was created, the API management? How long do you work with this technology?
I think almost 9 years. I started at Burg, and they was using TIBCO data integrations, and I was working there as a product manager or product owner, and I was enthusiastic over Azure, and I have a little obsession with APIs. So the thing was, okay, what can we do with APIs in Azure? And that was my first moment to have involved with API management.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was fun.
There are no secrets for you then.
Hopefully.
Cool. And you mentioned API management. For the watchers that are new to API management, can you explain a little bit what it is?
Yeah, I think it had three major functionality in it. First of all, most familiar, I think, is the API gateway. So when all the traffic you want to route, it will go to the API gateway of API management. That's the main thing. Also, we have also the management pane, and that is the interface we're all familiar with, is the Azure portal. So in the Azure portal, we are able to set some policies, make sure you have the right scalabilities. So that's more like also in web apps, you have a management pane to have some settings in there.
Okay, sort of the control plane, you mean?
Yeah. And last but not least is the developer portal. And yeah, definitely very important because you can have there the documentation of APIs. So if you have customers or your development teams, they will need an API portal, right? To know what is happening there, what APIs are available for me.
True. Yeah, I think so. At least they have to see the results, right? If they're deploying something. Yeah. But if I'm understanding correctly, it's a sort of centralized maintenance for all your APIs then, basically. Internal or external, for that matter.
Yeah, you have one central place where you can configure, you have control. Of course, you have also insights with like application insights of so with real life monitoring on your APIs. Yeah, that's a place to be in API management.
All right, cool. And as you mentioned, or as we mentioned at the start of the session, fine-grained API access control. Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
And we talked about it before we started the
Mhm.
video tonight.
Mhm.
Tell me, why did you pick this topic for us today?
That was fun to hear in our discussion before this video, that you has passed your security exam with what do you say, 150 questions?
The SISM exam, the SISM
Yeah.
exam, yeah, it was 150. It's very
Yeah,
tough.
and one important thing was the OWASP, right?
Well, that was one of them. I also
Yeah.
got a lot of questions about API management, so I thought like, well, that would be amazing to start in this conversation.
Nice moment then. But an important thing of OWASP is broken authentication, and that will mean it says like, okay, maybe you have no authentication, and if you have authentication, how do you configure it? Is it only basic authentication, or do you have a more modern authentication like OAuth? And then if I have an access token, what kind of access do I have? Can I consume every API? Can I consume only a GET operation? And can I use the POST for some mutations, or can I even delete data?
Yeah, it's really depending on what you want to offer, right, to the API which you'll be presenting from your organization.
Yeah, and what I see in a lot of customers is they finally have the modern authentication. So they have OAuth, they are able to request an access token or barrier token, and then they are fine, right? They say, okay, we have authentication. You can use get, post, delete, patch, put, And I think that's quite misunderstanding the case. Because if you have read access, it's enough for some kind of jobs. So it's fair enough to have only the get API. And why should those actions also have post or delete?
Indeed. I think the question is more like, it's great to have all the options available. And then if you can place that behind, so to speak, your authorization matrix, well, that's just a start. But do they really need all those access? And then I think of my CISP as you referenced.
That's only right answer, right?
Yeah, least privileged access, right? So let's just not make more possibility available unless you really require to do so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and that in many customers from medium companies and also enterprise companies, there is a lot of misconfiguration, lack of that fine-grained access.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
That's a pity. So you have a lot of jobs lying ahead for you, I guess.
Let's find out.
Cool. So what do you want to share for today?
Yeah, I want to share, of course, API management from Azure. I want to give some insights of my code. So I will show you in Visual Code how my API looks like. And I've also configured my web app not quite well. So we have a backdoor. And if I not set the settings correct in short term, the API can be accessed from outside without authentication. So we have also a job to do in this video.
Okay, well, the stage is yours. I don't know if you want to present something, but...
Yeah, definitely. Let me share my screen. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, we're seeing your Azure screen now.
yes. So, what I have done. We will start with a situation that I really like. So if I am with the customer, and from my perspective, like a consultant or a security advisory, I should do it on this way.
Okay.
And later on in this video, I will show you how I did it. So if we have API management, and we go to my APIs, we have this identity API.
Okay.
What's in there? Well, probably there are a lot of identities, names, but also BSN numbers from people outside the Netherlands. And BSN number is your personal identification number, which is unique. So if we have this number, I'm sure I have Dinant with that ID. So
Okay.
let's go to the data. Oh yeah, Data Explorer, and let's have a look. What is in there? Oh, we have also a Sanne Jansen, and let's remove this filter and show it all. And we have Sophie, we have Peter. These are fake, right?
Dummy information, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm generated with AI, so they are not real
Persons.
people.
Right.
No.
Okay.
So we have this database, and I want to consume this. I want to expose this with my API. Go to the API management. This is this API. So we have 4 in here. Well, maybe I had also the opportunity to use the put or patch. For the case, it won't harm anything. And we have here the get all identities.
Okay.
And what I mentioned in the beginning of the video, from my opinion, if you have access to the get API, why do you need access to the post? Or why should you delete a record? So what I did in this policy is quite clean. Oh, sorry, we need to first go to all operations. Less of code, specific for this demo. If I expand this screen, as you can see in this inbound section, first of all, I need to know who is trying to access my API.
Yeah.
And
So basically, we are now looking into an API which has fine-grained policies explaining what you're going to do or what you can do, right?
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And this is a situation I really like. So if I go to a company and they have this in place, then I can leave immediately because there's no job for me as well.
And what do we see here then for people that don't understand all this text?
Yeah, we see here XML, which is a language where you can write code. Quite an old-fashioned code, to be honest, but that's the language API management is using for the policies. And with a policy, you can define what is going to happen with your API. So what we can see here is 4 scopes. The inbound, and that is the first moment for API management to define what needs to be happen before we go to the backend service.
Right. Okay.
So before we can go there, we need to validate our authorization. Dus with the access token I get, and I will show right away. API management can say, okay, with this token you are able to access this API, so you can go to the next step, and that is the access the backend service.
Okay.
And there are a few other scopes where you can have control over the backend. You have control over what is going outside, so what will happen with the response of the API.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to remove some headers? Do I need to change some data? I have that control in this section of the policy.
Okay.
And I can do some error handling.
Cool.
So what I have here is you need to have a valid access token. If we have, we can go to this backend service.
Okay.
And in here we only say the default role in here. So if we want to access this APIs,
Mm-hmm.
we need no out as a role.
Okay.
But this is a role I will never expose. I will never assign it to a user. So they can never access this API if I have only this policy.
Right. So you always have to authenticate. That's the point.
Every time, yes.
Okay.
So we have this policy on all operations level. So this is my whole API, including post, including the delete. So this policy applies to all 4 operations.
Okay.
Next step, if we go to the get, I have also a policy in there. And there I can say you need the role of the identity reader.
Mm-hmm.
So if I request a access token from Entra ID in Azure, for example, but it can also be another identity provider, there needs to be a claim with roles which has the identity reader.
Right. At least
Okay.
the reader, right? Otherwise,
Yeah.
it will stop. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And in here, to have the post, we need the identity contributor.
Ah.
So
Good.
if I have this role as a reader, I will not be allowed to use the post.
Right.
And you can imagine delete is also... Okay, in this case, no one can use delete.
Okay.
No one. So
That was on purpose, right?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, sure.
Because you want to secure it.
yeah. No one can use this. If I should do it right, I have 2 options. I can say, okay, I can allow an identity with this contributor role. I can also say I will use the identity delete contributor. So you have we have a use case when your people need only add records,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you have other persons in your organization who also only need the delete API.
It sounds like that it could be handy if you have an integration team or you're applying a separation of duties. This can definitely help.
Yeah. And most of the time in enterprise organizations, this is the most important thing you need to do, right? So a lot of colleagues you're not known about.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if they can be trusted. If we are in a small company and we are with 3 of us, then you should choose, okay, let's use one role, one ring to rule them all, and we just with 3 of us.
Right. Yeah.
So let me have an example. Of course, I make some preparations, and this is fun because let me choose the. Of course, we go to production. In here, we are now able to request an access token.
Okay.
And this access token, let's have a look. Go to this one. GVT. With the GVT.io, we can decode the token. And as you can see, this access token have the claim roles, and the identity contributor and the identity reader access is there.
Yeah.
Now, how do you do this? How can you set this to a specific identity? Let's go to Entra ID. Cosmos, okay, we have seen this, so I can leave this part of the demo. And if we go to the app registrations, my own, we have two here. One is the front door. This is the scope of my API call to have this access token.
Mm-hmm.
And this front door is able to assign the roles to other app registrations. So it looks like this. You have the front door, and we expose an API, and we have some app roles to make it available.
Nice.
So if my colleagues or my applications go to this front door, they are able to request this roles. And in my example, we have this identity consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And this identity consumer have some permissions. And with the front door is exposing the two roles, we are granted to use this tool.
Those two roles, yeah.
Yeah. So if we go back to the token has been given. Well, I put it directly in a variable, and to have all the identities, I can have them all, right? Because I have this role assigned with the reader.
Yeah.
And that's why I can use the get all identities.
Yeah, so in API management, you have configured the roles, and the roles are granted basically via Entra ID, specified on the required permissions.
Yeah.
So if you run this, you can basically see your data.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's this part, right? In
Yes.
API management. So we now firing this API.
Okay.
And as you can see, we have here the identity reader. As we can see in the token, we have also the contributor. So let's find out, can we also have the API with the post to add a new identity? So in here it says, yes, you're fine to go. And if we post a single identity, well, this already, if we use this one, send, and it will be able to create a record in the Cosmos database, what we are seeing in the portal.
Okay.
So so far so good, and even if we want to get a single identity, we can put it here in the URL, and we get it back.
Right.
So far so good, and also No, the delete we cannot do because we have no access to it. Let's find out if we change a bit to our identity customer. And we don't want him to allow the post operation.
Okay.
So we can have we can remove the permission, but we also can remove the admin consent. Yes. So it will be not granted to use this.
Okay.
So when we get back to retrieving the access token, we get a new one. Copy, yeah. Go to gwt.io. Still there.
It's still there.
So that is not enough. The consumer.
It still has the yes admin consent.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably that will be the issue.
Yeah. Again. Now we have only the identity.
Yes, we see. So the roles
Now-
are limited.
No way back. So we still have the role for all the identities.
Right.
We still have the single identity, but we may not create a new record.
That should be denied. Yes.
Yes, unauthorized because your access token is missing or invalid. Yeah, you don't need to give a hacker that much information.
Right.
So that's why we do it on this way.
Less is more, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you say, oh, yeah, you need to roll identity contributor.
No. Don't make them smart.
Exactly. So I think, from my perspective, my opinion, this is the way it should work.
Well, at least you have your components as you want it to be, right?
Yeah. And what I also see a lot in projects is you have a business and the business needs new functionalities.
Mm-hmm.
Probably they're paying a lot or they want to shine on different stages. This is most important in every project. Then they want to talk, okay, we want to maintain, we want an incident process or maybe change management. And in the end, it comes to, we need also security. And what will happen with APIs, you need to build an API, you will try to test them without any security because you want to make sure that the functionality for the business will work.
Mm-hmm.
And that situation, I've tried to do that as well. So I have developed an API. In here, I have this identity controllers. Maybe too much code, but my point is we have this get. We have that get with a specific BSN. We have a post, and we have the delete. Those are the four which we have seen in API management. Well, I've deployed that to a app service in Azure, so we can go there. And as you can see, this app service will work. But the thing is, if you are in development process, you want to be less secure because everybody needs it as right away. it needs to be easy to show demos and to do stuff,
Right.
with not much questions about security. And what will happen in my case, for example, the network part, the public access is enabled with no access restrictions. And in my code, normally I should do in my program as CS or in other languages, you want to have an authentication component in your application. And if you have that in your code, you can say with the get, well, the policy is you need the get role.
Okay.
And that is it can be quite difficult to build, but I think most developers are able to do so. But the thing is, if you have a lot of development teams and you make them responsible for their own code, you have from a centralized perspective, no control of what is happening on your API.
Right. Yeah.
And when I now go to my test scenario again, if you go to the backdoor and I go to get all identities, I can have them. And as we can see, if we go to API management, I cannot post one record. But if I go to the app application itself, this through the web app directly, I can make one.
What's the magic?
What's the magic? Because the thing is, we have the traffic to the web app available, and we are not routing the traffic through API management.
Oh, so the policy never triggers, right?
Never. And that's quite often the case in large companies. So I have here the variables that we have seen. And the thing is, from the APIM host address, we use the API gateway.
Right.
If you go to the backdoor, I will show it in a minute, we use this web app host address, which has directly the URL of the web app.
Mm-hmm. Oh, then it passes first to the web app then.
Yeah.
Oh.
And what if you have development teams which are responsible for their part of the application, and they are not maybe interested in Azure, or they are not the knowledge of what can happen with the web app, or they are, by time pressure, or they are not have enough time because the business needs another functionality. So there will be a lack of configuration.
Okay. Yeah, that is a really pain, right? I mean, then you have a fancy, amazing technology. I must say, I also built it up myself in the past.
Amsterdam.
For another customer, indeed. And if you're not routing everything through API management, it cannot act basically. And then you can have your policies all in place. But if you're bypassing API management itself, it will never protect your APIs out of the other way they're passing through.
Yeah.
That's not correct. That they are passing outside your environment, over the internet. Yeah.
And of course, we have the landing zones of Azure. We have, of course, the policies that can be applied on different types of landing zones, the connected, the isolated, and the online landing zone.
Right.
But I think
the
less companies that are doing great in that part.
Yeah, they will at least they are cut off the bypasses basically. routing your traffic to the right endpoints, so to speak, not over the internet.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful.
Mm.
I mostly also use the Azure policies, which is a management possibility to also enforce some rules on my old APIs, which are delivered into API management itself.
Yeah.
Is that also a technology which you're using often, Azure policies?
Yeah, definitely. I'm working with enterprise customers, and that is most important for them. If they are not using the Azure policies in combination with the specific landing zone, yeah, I think problems will come. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but they will.
Yeah, I can imagine. Just looking at your demonstration, are there, I don't know, specific governance policies within API management, sort of central policies, which you mostly provision if they are not there, like rating limits or
Yes.
something else? I mean, this isn't customized specific only for this API.
Yeah.
I can imagine that you're doing this on high scale for all the APIs.
Yeah, I think the authentication part is API specific.
I agree. Yeah, totally.
You cannot apply that on higher level.
I wish.
Yes, that should be fun.
Well, at least they are enforced to use a specific identity provider. In this case, a local authentication will be disabled.
Yeah, the thing is, I think you will remember at your customer, they will always APIs you want to expose without any authentication.
I agree. Yeah.
If you have garbage to be taken, or if you had a tree needs to be maintained in the street for your civilians, you want to expose that API right away, or
for public information. I
for
totally
public
agree.
information.
Yeah.
And you want to use that expensive API management solution. You want to use that for those use cases as well.
Right. Yeah. At least you want to differentiate, right?
Yeah. But what you mentioned with rate limit, I can imagine if you have on all APIs level, which means if I set a policy in here, it will apply to all APIs within this API management environment. And then rate limit, even for public APIs, you want to have control there. So I think the rate limit is a nice one to have on higher level.
Are there maybe other policies which you're applying?
Yeah, definitely. One of them is the subscription header. If you are using API management and you have the response, from default, the subscription key is also part of the response. So on higher level, you want to apply, please remove this header, right? So every API which will send his response have no header with the authorization key of the subscription key.
That will be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that kind of use cases are very interested on higher level scope.
Right. Do you have specific other things, like a sort of lessons learned, being in more than 9 years in the field of API management or API?
Ooh. How many time do we have left in this video?
Well, just call the top 3 or something.
One of them, and I was struggling a bit with my current customer, is how will you do documentation of APIs?
Okay.
So what I see a lot is they are using the, how you call it? Now I'm forgetting the documentation from API, which can be generated with
Swag?
Swagger, yeah, Swagger UI. So, thank you. And they are exposing this to the outside world. Okay, for test environments, I can imagine, but we forget in most times that the test environment will be almost the same as a production.
Yeah.
So if you are a hacker and you can access the Swagger URL, which is probably Swagger UI .html, for example, that will be in most cases. As a hacker, you can think about, so this operation can be used in the production environment. And when I have control of I can have the access token, I can reuse it in production.
Right. Yeah. At least you have the first part
of the puzzle. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So and that's nice from API management. They have a developer portal, which is almost the same as Swagger. You can run some tests. You can fire APIs. But you have an identification layer before it.
Yeah, that's your identity provider, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So my message: be careful with the API documentation, and be careful with Swagger UI.
All right. Well, that's a good point.
Yeah, and then we have basic authentication. I see it too much because it is easy to implement. Instead of using OAuth, have an app registration, assign a secret in there. The customer needs to be in process to first retrieving the access token. And when they have it in position, how to reuse it for the other API calls. So from customer part of consumer perspective, it can be difficult to work with the OAuth access token.
Yeah, it has a higher learning curve, so to speak.
Yeah, and if you and then basic authentication. It's quite easy. You have a username, password. If you're able to provide it, you have access to all APIs.
Yeah.
But I can share it with my customer. I can share it with my neighbor. I can share it with my most unknown enemy. So, and that's quite tricky if you're using basic authentication.
I agree. Yeah, it's easy, but then again, the security is also easy being undo.
Yeah, that can be compromised quite easy.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, maybe the last one. I think the most important part is have a secure connection to your API gateway. If you are clicking through the portal in Azure and you want to spin up a API management instance, by default HTTP is also enabled. So you can have both. You can access HTTP or go to HTTPS. Well, your first step is only use HTTPS, and to be more professional, use your own domain to have that API gateway.
And do you also provision a layer 7 protection before the API management? Is that
Yeah, maybe is that maybe the fourth? Like you mean like the front door of an application gateway?
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
specific layer 7 protection
Yeah.
network devices, which in some cases are placed before the API management to protect it basically.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, with the OWASP top 10, yeah, it will help. Yeah.
Well, at least it's an extra layer, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
awesome. I think we have seen a lot of good practices which you have shown in between or telling. You're giving us a good insights like please be aware that you're changing your policies for your APIs. Do your homework basically. Not saying that they are doing it bad, but just to make it not easy for others like hackers or bad actors to make it for them easy as well.
Yeah.
And on that case, you can basically harden your environment. And you also mentioned there was 38, right? No, 83, sorry, percentage of API
Yeah.
security topics.
Yeah, that was also a nice statistic, of course. 83% of your HTTP traffic are APIs.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very important number to reach out
Yeah.
basically.
And
Meaning
I
that
think no one, most of the people with cell phones, like my grandmother or my mother, they are not aware about how many APIs they are using.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just the simplest, like the weather app, right? APIs flying around you.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
True.
true. Thank you very much for your presentation, also for the demonstration and everything what you have told this night. It's very pleased to see it also in action and the importance also in how protecting our APIs. Not only the authentication part, but all things around it. Like it's not, you also have to drill down your API traffic to your API management. Otherwise, you have a leakage there as well if they're bypassing all your security guards, basically.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So thank you once again.
You're
Hopefully,
welcome.
if you have another amazing topic around API security, which will definitely come up, I think maybe about API for Defender for APIs.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah. Yeah.
If you will touch upon that, please have a ring to me. Then we have a
Yeah,
great
sure.
session as well, I guess. But once again, thank you very much. And
Maybe we can have one session per month.
yeah, we can
Yeah,
we
with
can always do
APIs.
that. Yeah, definitely. So let's keep in contact. And for everybody who's listening, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully this is useful. Leave a comment on the links below. And otherwise, till next time, take care. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye bye.